Welcome to Bears Royal Guys. Please support me by subscribing and getting me to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. An unsanctioned locker room war just erupted inside Halas Hall, forcing Chicago Bears head coach Matt Eberflus to secretly institute an unprecedented shock practice rule for one reason only: to protect his multi-million-dollar starting offensive line from an unstoppable undrafted rookie named Jayden Loving. During padded one-on-one drills, this unknown defender wasn't just winning reps, he was utterly destroying starter morale, blowing up interior pockets, and threatening to force high-priced veterans onto the inactive bench on game day. Front office execs watched in panic as Loving's raw, violently dominant tape threatened to blow up Ryan Pohl's entire salary cap strategy and active 53-man roster construction before Week 1 even kicks off. If an undrafted free agent can single-handedly force a coaching staff to alter practice rules just to keep their starters safe, the Bears' depth chart is no longer a competition. It is a total hostile takeover. What you are about to see is the incredible film, financial fallout, and locker room chaos behind the rookie who made Chicago's front office terrified of their own practice field. The friction did not begin in a quiet meeting room or during a low-tempo walkthrough under the summer sun. It exploded in the heat of full contact, padded one-on-one interior trenches where multi-million-dollar contracts are supposed to guarantee dominance. When Jayden Loving took his initial reps against the first-team offensive line, the expectation was routine. He was an undrafted free agent, an afterthought on the 90-man summer roster meant to take burnout reps and absorb contact so the high-priced starters could preserve their bodies for the regular season. Instead, Loving burst off the snap with an unhinged, violent twitch that instantly threw the interior protection into complete disarray. On his very first representative snap in full pads, he executed a violent bull rush that drove a seasoned veteran starter backward into the virtual lap of the quarterback, collapsing the pocket before the play could even develop. The collision echoed across the practice facility, halting the quiet rhythm of the morning practice. Veterans looked around in disbelief, expecting a whistle, a warning, or a reminder that training camp is about self-preservation. Loving gave them none of those things. He reset his stance, slammed his gloves together, and demanded the next rep with an intensity that bordered on reckless. By the third day of padded practices, the situation inside Halas Hall had escalated from an intriguing underdog story to an operational crisis for the coaching staff. Loving was not merely winning occasional reps through effort, he was fundamentally wrecking the scheduled script of the offense. Every time the offensive staff tried to run interior zone schemes or basic play action setups to get their high-priced starting unit into a rhythm, Loving tore through the B gap, disrupting footwork and forcing premature throwaways. The coaching staff realized they had a unique problem on their hands. You cannot build offensive chemistry when your starting center and guards are getting violently physically overpowered on standard practice reps by a player who did not even hear his name called on draft weekend. The tension reached a boiling point when a frustrated starting guard threw a punch after Loving drove him 3 yards past the line of scrimmage on a routine handoff drill. The ensuing scuffle dragged half the team into a clearing match, forcing the coaching staff to intervene and blow the whistles to regain control of the field. It was in the immediate aftermath of that field brawl that the coaching staff quietly implemented what insiders are calling the shock practice rule. Matt Eberflus and his defensive coordinators realized that if they continued to let Loving throw his body around with absolute disregard for practice etiquette, they risked injuring their starting offensive line before the regular season even kicked off. More importantly, they risked destroying the confidence of a multi-million-dollar protection unit designed to keep their franchise quarterback safe. The staff instituted immediate artificial constraints on Loving's practice participation. They began strictly limiting his consecutive reps in one-on-one drills, subbing him out after explosive wins, and forcing him into specific rotational limits that prevented him from lining up against the primary starting interior for extended sequences. On the surface, the coaches framed these moves as load management and standard rotation evaluation, but everyone on the sidelines knew the uncomfortable truth. The coaching staff had to step in and alter the rules of practice to shield their starting unit from an undrafted rookie who refused to play by the unwritten rules of veteran preservation. The stakes of this sudden intervention extend far beyond bruised egos on the practice field. In the modern NFL, an undrafted free agent playing with this level of unhinged dominance creates an immediate, terrifying dilemma for roster management. The player sitting across from Loving in those drills isn't just a teammate. He is a veteran earning millions in guaranteed money with an established spot on the active game day roster. When an undrafted rookie routinely exposes those multi-million-dollar assets in broad daylight, it forces the front office to ask uncomfortable questions. If Loving continues to physically dominate the players who are supposed to start on Sunday, how can the coaching staff justify keeping him on the sidelines when the real games begin? The hierarchy of the entire roster has been violently shaken, setting up a high-stakes standoff where financial guarantees are crashing directly into raw, undeniable performance. To fully understand why Jayden Loving's emergence has thrown Halas Hall into a state of structural panic, you have to look past the violent collisions on the practice field and stare directly at the harsh, unforgiving math of modern NFL roster construction. Training camp isn't just an athletic competition, it is a high-stakes financial game played under the oppressive ceiling of the league salary cap. Every August, general managers across the league face the brutal administrative reality of condensing a 90-man off-season roster down to 53 official players, with only 48 allowed to put on pads on game day. That 48-man active list is where the true economics of the sport collide with raw performance. A player sitting on the inactive bench on Sunday is a wasted roster spot, but a high-priced veteran sitting on that bench is an operational disaster. When general manager Ryan Poles signed veteran interior defensive linemen to multi-million-dollar contracts with guaranteed signing bonuses, the financial blueprint was clear. Those contracts were negotiated with the explicit expectation that those players would anchor the defensive front, swallow double teams, and justify their heavy cap hits through high-volume snap counts. Under standard NFL contract structures, cutting or demoting a veteran with fully guaranteed money creates dead cap space, money that stays locked against the team's salary cap, limiting their ability to sign future free agents or extend emerging stars, while the player is paid to either sit at home or play for a rival. The financial mechanism of the cap is designed to protect veteran investments, forcing front offices to favor contract size over raw camp competition when ties need to be broken. This is precisely where Loving creates an unprecedented financial nightmare for the Chicago hierarchy. As an undrafted free agent, Loving signed a standard 3-year rookie agreement carrying minimal guaranteed money and a base salary that sits near the league minimum. Economically, he is the most efficient asset possible on a football field, an explosive, high-impact interior disruptor costing a fraction of a single veteran cap hit. If Loving continues to physically outplay established starters during live periods, the front office faces an agonizing paradox: keeping a multi-million-dollar veteran on the active 48-man list purely because of his paycheck, while relegating a superior performer in Loving to the inactive list or the practice squad fundamentally undermines the meritocracy of the locker room. Yet, the alternative is equally terrifying for front office executives. If Poles decides that Loving's raw, game-disrupting talent demands an active game day role, the team is forced to make that high-priced veteran a healthy scratch on Sundays, having millions of dollars in guaranteed cap space, wearing street clothes on the sideline is an immediate indictment of front office talent evaluation. It signals to the rest of the league that the organization misallocated precious cap resources on aging depth while an undrafted rookie stole their job in broad daylight. Furthermore, placing Loving on the practice squad isn't a safe harbor either. To put an undrafted player on the practice squad, he must first clear NFL waivers, exposing his contract to 31 other teams. With Loving's dominant practice film circulating among scout networks, rival front offices would instantly claim him, stripping Chicago of a cheap, elite developmental asset without receiving a single draft pick in return. Every snap Loving wins in practice tightens the financial vice on Chicago's front office. He is forcing the Bears to choose between two painful outcomes: swallow massive dead money hits by cutting or benching established veterans, or risk losing a generational low-cost defensive talent to a rival waiver claim. The financial buffer that usually protects high-earning NFL veterans has completely dissolved under the weight of an undrafted rookie's unyielding performance. What started as a quiet experiment on the remote fields of Halas Hall quickly devolved into a complete tactical takeover of the Chicago Bears' entire defensive structure. In the opening days of training camp, Jayden Loving was buried at the absolute bottom of the depth chart, relegated to taking third-team snaps against reserve interior offensive linemen. His early job description was simple: eat space, absorb physical punishment, and give the defensive coaching staff standard evaluation film. But when coaches reviewed the tape after those first few live team periods, they didn't see an unrefined rookie taking basic reps. They saw a hyper-explosive wrecking ball repeatedly collapsing the pocket, executing violent club rip moves, and penetrating the backfield before run plays could even clear the mesh point. Loving wasn't just holding his own against fringe roster players, he was completely rendering the third-team offensive installation obsolete. Driven by the overwhelming film evidence, the coaching staff had no choice but to elevate Loving to second-team reps during live team periods. This is usually where the steep learning curve of NFL talent catches up to undrafted free agents, as the step up in physical power and technical processing speed shuts down unrefined athleticism. Instead, Loving elevated his game to match the heightened competition. Facing off against second-string guards with multi-year league experience, Loving showcased a devastating first-step quickness and a low leverage point that left interior protectors grasping at air. Film breakdown of those second-week practices reveals a terrifying pattern for the offensive staff. On passing downs, Loving routinely won his interior matchups within 2 seconds of the snap, forcing the backup quarterback to escape the pocket or take virtual sacks that derailed entire drive simulations. The real shift, the moment that sent shockwaves through the locker room, came when the defensive staff quietly inserted Loving into specialized first-team sub-packages. Lining up directly across from starting interior offensive linemen during critical third and medium periods, the undrafted rookie did not flinch. On one widely discussed rep, Loving timed the snap count perfectly, drove his hands directly into the chest frame of a veteran starter, and walked him straight back into the quarterback's passing lane, forcing a frantic throwaway. He was no longer just winning rotational reps, he was actively stealing high-leverage snaps from established players. Loving's sudden surge up the depth chart completely disrupted the established hierarchy, transforming standard practice periods into high-stakes territorial battles. The psychological fallout inside the trench meetings was immediate and intense. In the NFL, practice film is the ultimate truth teller, played on loop in front of the entire position group every single morning. Seeing an undrafted rookie walk into Halas Hall and physically overpower players whose starting roles were assumed to be set creates a toxic mix of paranoia and urgency. For the starting interior offensive lineman, every rep against Loving suddenly became a high-stakes fight for their professional dignity and future contract leverage. If a player earning top-tier money gets consistently exposed by an undrafted agent in front of the head coach and general manager, his status on the team's long-term master plan instantly becomes fragile. Loving's relentless camp takeover shattered the comfortable routine of summer practices, proving to the entire locker room that no contract, draft status, or veteran tenure is safe when an unhinged talent decides to claim what isn't strictly protected. When an undrafted free agent unexpectedly converts practice field chaos into absolute structural dominance, the impact instantly radiates outward, completely altering the leverage dynamic inside the general manager's war room. For Ryan Pauls, Jayden Loving's sudden transformation from an anonymous roster long shot into an unblockable interior force creates an unprecedented market opportunity just days before cutdown day. Around the league, front offices are frantically scouring opponent tape, desperate to identify depth pieces and rotational interior defenders who can bolster their defensive fronts before week 1. In a league where quality interior disruptors are a rare currency, possessing surplus talent at defensive tackle is akin to holding liquid gold on the trade market. Before Loving's explosive camp performance, Pauls entered the late summer trading window with standard expectations. The plan was simple: evaluate the roster, make standard cuts, and accept that any bubble veterans released on final cutdown day would walk away for zero compensation. But Loving's total takeover of second and first team reps fundamentally rewrites that equation. By proving he can step directly into high leverage sub packages and produce violent backfield penetration, Loving renders a high-priced veteran on the interior depth chart completely expendable. Instead of holding onto an aging, expensive rotational defender out of fear of losing positional depth, Pauls can now actively shop that veteran to rival front offices facing dire injury crises or thin defensive rotations. The ripple effect across the league's trade market is immediate. Scouting directors from interior needy teams, franchises dealing with preseason knee injuries, contract holdouts, or abysmal run defense grades look at Chicago's tape and see a surplus of NFL caliber defensive linemen. Pauls suddenly holds all the leverage in late August phone calls. When a rival general manager calls asking about veteran interior availability, Pauls can firmly demand a mid to late round draft pick or an upgraded asset at another position of need, knowing full well that Loving is already primed to absorb those lost snaps without any drop-off in production. Loving didn't just win a roster spot for himself, he unlocked latent trade value on Chicago's bench, transforming routine August cuts into future draft capital. This strategic leverage extends directly to the delicate mechanics of practice squad allocation and developmental depth management. In the modern NFL, general managers must constantly play a chess match with the league's waiver wire, balancing who to expose to the open market and who to protect on the active 53. If Loving forces his way onto the final 53-man roster, the entire downstream cascade of defensive line depth is recalibrated. Younger, project-based linemen who might have originally made the tail end of the roster are now pushed down to the practice squad fringe. However, because Loving's dominant tape makes him an impossible waiver wire secret, the front office is spared the agonizing risk of trying to sneak their best young disruptor onto the practice squad, where 31 other teams could claim him instantly. By forcing the front office's hand, Loving transforms the Bears' late summer roster construction from a defensive hold-the-line operation into an aggressive offensive expansion. Every hit he delivers on a starting guard increases the trade value of the veteran standing behind him, giving the Bears maximum flexibility as the league deadline approaches. The undrafted free agent hasn't just reshaped the defensive line, he has given the entire front office a multi-move advantage over the rest of the league. As 4 o'clock approaches on final cutdown day, the atmosphere inside the front office suite at Halas Hall is thick with calculated tension. Millions of dollars in projected team payroll, months of intensive film evaluation, and the immediate competitive trajectory of the Chicago Bears hang on the final submission of the 53-man active roster. Across the league, front office executives routinely use Cutdown Tuesday to execute predictable administrative house cleaning, quietly waiving undrafted long shots and safekeeping their high-priced veteran investments. But Jayden Loving's month-long teardown of the offensive line fundamentally broke that traditional playbook. There is no realistic scenario where Ryan Pauls can risk putting Loving on the open waiver wire. 31 rival personnel directors have watched the same violent game-disrupting practice tape, and attempting to sneak a 300-pound interior engine onto the practice squad would result in a rival claim within minutes. The final verdict on Jayden Loving is no longer a matter of debate, it is an absolute operational necessity. Loving secures a permanent guaranteed spot on the Chicago Bears' official 53-man roster, completing one of the most astonishing undrafted ascensions in recent franchise history. To make room for him, the front office is forced to swallow the uncomfortable financial reality of either trading away a high-earning veteran rotational tackle or making a million-dollar contract player a healthy scratch on game days. Loving's raw, game-breaking physical tools simply rendered every traditional roster-building metric obsolete. By forcing his way into primary interior sub-packages through sheer unadulterated dominance, he didn't just earn a jersey, he completely reordered the defensive rotation before stepping foot into his first official regular season game. Beyond the immediate tactical boost on the defensive front, Loving's meteoric rise reveals a massive, fundamental evolution in Chicago's internal talent evaluation pipeline. Under Ryan Poles, the organization has aggressively revamped its advanced scouting frameworks and college free agent recruitment strategies. Identifying an unheralded, violent interior defender who slipped entirely through the 7 rounds of the NFL draft and convincing him to sign with Chicago over competing offers highlights a front office operating with supreme analytical precision. Loving's success proves that the Bears' talent identification network is no longer merely looking for safe, high-floor depth. They are actively unearthing dynamic, hyper-explosive difference makers in the unlikeliest corners of the college landscape. He represents the new gold standard of modern NFL roster optimization. Elite, game-disrupting talent secured on a team-friendly contract that provides massive salary cap flexibility. Jayden Loving went from an unheralded rookie trying to survive the hot summer double sessions to an untouchable force who fundamentally altered practice rules, threatened veteran job security, and reshaped the entire trajectory of the Bears' defense. What started as an unsanctioned locker room war during padded trench drills culminated in a full-scale takeover of the defensive depth chart. The undrafted rookie didn't just crash the party at Halas Hall, he broke down the front door and demanded the keys to the franchise's defensive identity. Now, as the regular season arrives, the rest of the league is about to find out what Chicago's starting offensive line already knows. Jayden Loving isn't just a feel-good summer story, he is a total nightmare for anyone standing in his way. If you want to stay ahead of every roster shift, film breakdown, and trade rumor as Chicago prepares for kickoff, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below with your prediction for Jayden Loving's rookie sack total and let me know if you think Ryan Poles made the right call by blowing up the traditional depth chart for an undrafted phenomenon.